Hi guys, it's Ed. Welcome back to Warthog Defense. Ukraine's top intelligence official warns that Russia is laying the groundwork for the biggest military expansion since the Soviet era. With $1.1 trillion earmarked for rearmament through 2036, the Kremlin is reshaping the entire state apparatus for long-term war. New military districts in Moscow and Leningrad have been created, and fresh divisions are already forming, signaling a strategic shift toward full-scale mobilization.
Russia plans to spend around $1.1 trillion on rearmament over the next 11 years in preparation for a potential large-scale war, Ukraine's military intelligence chief Kirill Budanov said. Moscow has launched its most ambitious weapons program since the collapse of the Soviet Union, he said. Russia is mobilizing all sectors of society to support its military buildup, he added. There is a total mobilization of politics, economy, and society of the Russian Federation to be ready for the upcoming large-scale war, Budanov said during the annual meeting of Ukrainian ambassadors. As part of this reform, Russia has already created two new military districts, Moscow and Leningrad, and is preparing to form additional divisions and military units. Budanov said the Kremlin's goal is not just regional domination, but a reshaping of the global order. Russia seeks to disrupt the current security and economic order, he added. For this purpose, Moscow is building up its presence in Africa, primarily using its proxy forces. Budanov also warned that Russia is conducting hybrid operations abroad, including cyber attacks and disinformation campaigns aimed at undermining democracies. Moscow's goal is to impose on countries its own vision of the future world order, where big states, primarily the Russian Federation, have full power, a monopoly on all critical resources, and decide the fate of the world in a closed circle, Budanov said. His comments follow a growing number of warnings from Western intelligence services about Russia's long-term military buildup. Last year, German intelligence chief Bruno Kahl said that Moscow will have the military capabilities to attack NATO by 2030. Russia's defense spending has already overtaken that of all European countries combined. In 2024, its military budget surged by 42% to $462 billion, surpassing Europe's collective defense expenditure of $457 billion, according to the International Institute for Strategic Studies. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said on April 30th that Russia is prepared to scale up its war effort to levels last seen in Second World War, claiming millions of civilians are supporting the military by donating supplies and equipment. Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Oleksandr Syrsky estimated in April that Russia could call up to 5 million trained reservists, with a broader mobilization potential of 20 million. On the other side, Ukraine is not wasting time. A precision GBU-62 bomb strike hit a Russian position in Hlushkove, Kursk region. The Ukrainian Air Force continues to carry out daily precision strikes on Russian positions, targeting troop concentrations, supply depots, and command centers across occupied territories. Ukrainian mortar teams struck a concentration of Russian troops in Oleshki, Kherson region. Fierce skirmishes are gripping the Kherson region as Russian forces repeatedly attempt to cross the Dnipro River, launching assaults near Kherson City and Kozatsky Island, while Ukraine's coastal defense and drone units hold the line, repelling every advance. Residents of the Russian-occupied Donetsk region of Ukraine have issued a desperate appeal to Vladimir Putin to resolve a disastrous shortage of water. A Russian war blogger admits that the region was better off before the Russian takeover. The entirety of Russian-occupied Ukraine is experiencing a severe and worsening lack of water for domestic, agricultural, and industrial use. War, neglect, faulty infrastructure, and corruption are widely blamed for the problems. The Blue Z-Beard Telegram channel has published the text of an appeal to the Tsar, which residents of Donetsk have made to Vladimir Putin. It's unlikely to have much effect, as similar appeals have simply been referred to the local authorities. To the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, we are appealing to you on behalf of the residents of the city of Donetsk and the entire Donetsk People's Republic with a desperate request to intervene in the situation that has grown from a communal issue into a humanitarian and environmental disaster. Since 2022, Donetsk has not had a stable water supply. Water is supplied on schedule. Over the past year, it was supplied once every 2 days. But from the end of July 2025, the authorities intend to transfer us to an even stricter regime, water supply once every 3 days. In conditions of sweltering heat and the lack of alternatives, this is critical and unacceptable. The quality of the supplied water is disgusting. Cloudy, with dirty sediment, it spoils plumbing and pipes. It is impossible to use it for cooking or personal hygiene, but it is paid for as drinking water. At the same time, even with the current schedule, the water does not reach the upper floors, especially in old housing stock. People are forced to carry water in buckets from the basements. The elderly, families with children, the disabled, everyone suffers and suffers for years. The water pipeline from the Don, built as a salvation, works ineffectively. It provides only 6% of the city's needs. Numerous violations were committed during its construction. It constantly breaks. The situation is aggravated by economic absurdity. The price of drinking water in vending machines and stores in Donetsk is 5 rubles, 6 cents per liter, which is twice as high as in neighboring cities. In Mariupol and Rostov, 2.5 rubles. This is despite the fact that we have no choice but to buy water. Moreover, the water rates in apartments are not only too high, but also unfair given its terrible quality. Particularly outrageous is the consumption standard set for the population, 330 liters per person per day. At the same time, the official water supply schedule is from 1700 to 2100, that is, only 4 hours a day. How a person is supposed to collect 330 liters in 4 hours, no one explains. This is not just ridiculous, it is a mockery. Against this background, the city continues to build residential complexes, lay roads, fountains, water shows. All this looks like a mockery of people who live without water and fight for survival every day. Moreover, the Donetsk metallurgical plant has officially announced plans to increase steel production. This will require additional water, tens of thousands of cubic meters monthly, while residents do not have enough of it even for the most basic household needs. The construction of new houses, which is actively underway in the Republic, will also require significant water supply. But there is nowhere to take water from. This means that even more of it will be taken from the population. We, residents of Donetsk and the DPR, demand: take the situation with water supply in the region under your personal control. Conduct an investigation into the actions and inactions of local authorities. Punish not only corrupt officials, but also all officials who allowed the impending catastrophe to be hushed up. Instruct those responsible to introduce a state of emergency and immediately organize backup sources of supply. Instruct those responsible to develop and implement a program to modernize the entire water supply system, including a second branch of the water pipeline, since the first one cannot cope and was built with violations. Obligate responsible persons to review the tariff policy and standards towards adequacy, transparency, and fairness. Dear Vladimir Vladimirovich, people live here, citizens of the Russian Federation. We are not just asking, we are shouting. We have been deprived of the most basic need, the right to access to water, and we hope that you will hear us. With respect and hope for your participation, residents of Donetsk and the Donetsk People's Republic. Reviewing the situation, Voenko Kotenok comments: of course, it's complete chaos. People waited 8 years to be included in Russia, endured Ukrainian bombings, and as a result, the situation is worse than it was before the war. Unimaginable brutality. There's no water in Mariupol also, at least not for the people, but there's plenty for car washes and fountains. The priorities of the occupying authorities. And they call it a water crisis? Just malicious tongues spreading lies.
Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. You know, he's doing the job every day.